I'm Frank Lean, and I'm gonna show y'all motherfuckers a little trick. I get some questions every now and then where people is like, "Yo, I peeped the beat, and you had like 3 instruments going on, or like 2 instruments and a bass, and it sounded like there was a whole lot of other shit going on, and you said what was going on in it, and that there was definitely more going on, and I'm gonna explain that right now." So, what I do is when I first started making beats, I used to sample, and I've been using Fruity Loops since I was like 14. I had like version like 2 or 3 or 4 songs, some shit like that. Very elementary old version of Fruity. And I used to always be chopping up like old samples, you know, and like trying to mimic like what DJ Premier and all them motherfuckers was doing down in New York. But once the electronic wave, we'll call it, came in, and like Dirty South music took over and everything became like trap, which I embrace because I'm a trap producer. I started to realize that music's, you know, a lot of this music nowadays is really quantized. There's not a lot of samples, so why should I do samples? Plus, you got to clear samples and the royalties and shit. But there's a little loophole in that. So let's just say, for instance, you know, you're sampling like Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On. That's like a mad, like, known song. But let's just, for example, okay, you're sampling Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On. Most people, if you sample that, are going to recognize, hey, I didn't know that. That's Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On, right? So you have to clear the sample, otherwise, you know, the music industry considers you're stealing that artist. You got to get a copyright permission or whatever. So that's not like the ideal way. Producers do become successful sampling music, and you can clear samples depending on what level, you know, anybody can clear a sample, but anyway, it's a lot easier to just quantize and use synths and produce music that way. Most of it's royalty free. So anyway, my little loophole is this. Sometimes there's electronic beats or trap beats or whatever, and I feel like there's too much going on. It's too complex, you know, and there's actual songs that are on the radio, big songs and shit that I think, you know, oh shit, you know, they could have done, the artist could have done a lot more like vocally, because there's too much shit going on in the beat, and that's a whole nother argument. But a way that I have found to make like simple old sample style beats, not the sound of the genre of the beat per se, like all my beats are basically trap beats, but like to give it some thick rubbery quality sitting in the mix, so that way you can get away with like making a loop style beat. Like sometimes producers make a loop and you're like, damn, this is so dope. Every instrument in excess that I try to put over it like fucks it up, or it sounds like too much or too little or whatever. And I'm gonna show you a little trick to like thicken your tracks real quick. Very simple, and you will be sampling a little bit, but you don't have to clear these samples, because I believe there are like bylaws where there's a certain time in them. Also, what I do is I will chop just a tiny little piece, and when I say a piece, I'm talking about less than a 1-second sample. Sometimes of a song that might have notes in it that might match what I'm doing for a project. So for instance, like if I detect my pitch, which you can do that in Slice X of like a main synth, sometimes I'll stop what I'm doing, export the synth, and I'll detect the pitch and I'll retune the whole beat to it. You don't have to do that every time. I know this cast like Busy Works beats that are like, oh, you have to tune every single, but no, I mean back in the day, DJs with MPCs and turntables, you think they like had like the equipment to like tune every single instrument, you know, going all the way back to the late 70s. I don't fucking think so. You know, you have to use your ear. So if you have a good ear for sound, you can bend pitches and things like that to relatively, you know, get the key of the song to match within all samples. But anyway, what I do is I take a small piece of music sometimes and I'll set it in the mix and turn it down so you can't really hear like the instrument. So let's say I have a beat and I use like 2 nexus synths and a bass line, and it's just a hot ass loop, and like it's a 18-second long loop where I like stretched, you know, the Fruity panel out to like 64, and I had like a long ass like loop, you know, so I could get away with just a few change ups and making that like a song. I will sit things in the mix that have come from old records and just little pieces of it to thicken it up. And I'm going to show you right here. I got a little loop I'm working on right now. I'm going to show you the sound that I imported in as a sample that's only less than a second long, and I use it as a piano instrument, and I set it in the mix. And again, this is a very simple concept, so if you've already figured this out, whatever, you know, I don't know how many other people do this shit, but check this out. Alright, so I got this one track right here I'm working on. Now all that is a hi-hat, or two hi-hats, we'll say, my main Nexus synth, and that's it. You know, and you might be thinking, like, how can that be? I hear other shit going on. Well, what you probably hear is this motherfucker right here. I don't know if you can hear. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. It's a little cut, a little chop, a little sample. Okay. I'm gonna play one more time. You hear that? So that comes from an old ass Peter Tosh song. You know, for copyright shit, I'm not gonna name which song, but I don't have to clear it. And I'm only using this. But with this sample, I'm able to create this melody right here just by using the piano roller. I'm gonna show you right now. I'm gonna silence everything out. And that, it sounds like I got like a piano synth going on, but I don't. That's a sample. But it's only it's just that one little hit. So who's to say that ain't from a Nexus? Ain't nobody gonna be able to like sit down and be like, oh wait, that 1 millisecond that came from this song in this year. That's very unlikely. So I can use the sample without clearing. Okay. And then when you put it over your synth. Sounds mad thick. There's a little bit of like the vinyl crackle going on. It's very, very minimal. You have some analog tape like qualities going on, and this isn't stuff that the main listener can like pick out with their ears, but it's gonna create atmosphere. And when you create atmosphere in a song, you're taking up room without creating another individual instrument, let's say. So you can take up some room in a mix with sounds like that. Another thing I'll do is I'll take like a vinyl hiss sample, like, you know, if you YouTube a download, like rip a YouTube video of an old sample, which sometimes I'll do and shit. You can hear the record player start to turn on, and it goes, and you hear that little crackle sound. Well, you can cut that out, and that's royalty free, because there ain't no way he's gonna be able to tell, like, that was the vinyl crackle from this record on this year. They're not gonna know, you know. And you don't want that to be real prominent in the mix, you know, because then it's gonna sound like cheesy, like, oh, this cat just ran an Nexus synth and put a vinyl crackle over it. But you sit that stuff in the mix, and it gives it some of the hum qualities, especially the hum qualities and thickness, especially if you, like I was going to say, if you tune it like the other instruments, so now that hum will actually be in tune with the rest of the beat, and it creates room. So then you can get away with like a beat that just like the bass cuts out, you know, a couple times before the hook, and then you just add like a shaker or tambourine in the hook, or double up, you know, the speed of the hi-hats, or whatever you want to do. That's how I get away with taking like a simple loop or melody and not really creating a whole lot more on top of that, and having the mix still be thick, you know, and then with your change up. So try that shit out. I think it's pretty dope. You can do the same thing with voices, little bass samples, chants, anything you want. Another trick too is to take like some old, like dusty vinyl sample drums and throw those behind your 808s and 909s and shit in your trap beats, and just turn them way down, so you listeners not hearing like a dusty asshole boom bap drum, but there's still some of those qualities and the thickness and the rubberiness like sitting in the mix. So I hope that helped some of y'all out that are trying to get like abstract, trying to create your own like authentication within your sound or whatever. I hope that helps y'all out. That's what I do, and this shit seems to work for me. Yeah, I'm out. Be easy.